pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so call to order at 7 p.m. Roll call. Amy is excused. Mike Simon is excused. I'm here. Mr. Lottie? Here. All right. Mr. Wicker? Yep, I'm here. Mr. Gray?
I am present.
And Mr. Bendinger?
Yep.
All right, so everybody's here. As far as, have you got a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes,
Any motion to accept?
I would go to accept.
I'll second. Okay, then. Minutes. Any motion to accept minutes?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
A second.
Reports. Your voice, I don't
I
know.
need a motion.
Oh, second
Motion
motion.
vote.
No, I'll get motion and second and your voice.
Oh, so, oh, yeah.
I'll say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then
Any
Opposed.
opposed, yeah. Yeah, okay.
you can move on.
All right, so reports and presentations, so Chairman, I wish you had chairperson.
Nothing.
You have to make something.
Just make.
Make it up.
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting, Dave. And village manager.
More ways than one, Spanish. So. Way too much going on right now. We've had one new home permit submitted this year that we approved. It's down on Peninsula Drive, is for our state senator, Roger Hawk. Hopefully should be the website here in a second. Maybe.
See term limited out soon here.
What's that?
See term limited out soon. Was it 12?
No, because with the change in the term limit law, he can run again for Senate. So
Okay.
the Senate, the Michigan State Senate runs in the midterm,
Mhm.
so he's eligible to run again in 26 for one more term.
Which is a 4-year term.
For your term.
Alright.
Yeah, so he did 6 in the House and then. Yeah. With the changes in our laws in this fair land.
Yep.
We sent our newsletter off to L Printer earlier this week. Digital copies available on our website, highlighting the lake restoration project with pictures from what we did in the winter, technically fall, but and then on the inside, a lot of FAQ about our cityhood stuff. We're gonna start coming out a little bit more about that now that got everybody here and we're through budget season, that kind of stuff. And then obviously the reminder about fireworks, which will be Saturday, July the 5th, at dusk. The Lake Restoration Committee did meet, very recently with Guy Savin of Savin Lake Restoration Services, and had a very good, probably hour and a half-ish meeting where they walked through just the timeline, a whole bunch of the general questions for the river project. We've all sort of agreed that George at the association is gonna be the point of contact with Guy for this project, since they already have a relationship established through the years of lake treatment, and just like we did on the last one with us and Mally. So we thought it was important that, you know, those guys could get all those questions answered, so when they're getting asked, you know, that they know the correct answers. But the river dredging project is gonna have to wrap up by October 15th for the state permit. He's looking to begin dredge work itself around August 15th. They're gonna start moving equipment in July to start building the holding cell for the site. And one of the neat things that he shared with us is they have a YouTube page. And on said YouTube page, they have videos from past projects, so we use that to show kind of the examples of what you know, we could expect with this work here. So this is one from Elk Rapids. And that's kind of the setup that we're gonna see. We're gonna have a dredge with a big straw that's buoyed out like that.
The barrels are floating the line.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that goes over to a dewatering cell.
A lot of hose.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Did you have to build that watering cell?
Where are they building that?
Up at Lucky Robson's place.
Oh, so they're gonna take it all the way to his gravel pit or whatever and build it?
Yep.
Is that gonna close off the river?
Yeah.
Wow.
They said, you know, once they get underway, you know, smart boaters could pull the prop up and roll over the, you know, the what I say, the tube pipe, whatever.
How, you have an idea how much that will
There are
have to make?
those are people who should
Shouldn't
avoid
affect
taking
much
out
at all.
the team for
Because we're
their
doing it during the
Anyone
water
who
off.
wants to keep both legs healthy, anyone who refuses.
Savin Lake Services.
Don't have an ad blocker on the computer.
499 Delta. The Clare Dredging Project. Fall 2024, Clare, Michigan. Once upon a time, the city of Clare had a beautiful lake right within the city limits. Over the last 3 decades, silt and sand entering Lake Shamrock from the Tobacco River accumulated so much debris that new islands actually started forming. Savin Lake Services goals: restore Shamrock to its original splendor so everyone can once again enjoy kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and even a new beach. Meet Little Blue and Red Rover. These two dredges have the ability to move nearly 80 metric tons of sand and silt every hour out of the lake and into a massive retention pond over a mile away. No small task. This custom-built retention pond filters the water and returns it right back to the Tobacco River. Call Savin Lake Services to solve your lake dredging problems today. Savin Lake Services. It's a Michigan thing.
Hold on. Guy Savin has no. That's right.
No, wait.
Cups and donuts.
So, but yeah, check them out on their YouTube page. They were actually very interested in the photos that we have on our site, because when we started to get into this, we made a Flickr account and we've put all of our photos from as far back as we could document with the condition of the lake during the drawdown at different spots around the lake. So you can sort through our albums by either like the year or the location, because you can tag a photo to be in multiple albums on Flickr. So like if it was a 16-17 drawdown and it was at the river, you know, it's gonna be in that one, and it's gonna be in the folder for the river or you know, South Park, whatever. So. But yeah, it was a really productive meeting. I think a lot of the committee members got their questions answered to their satisfaction. Lucky was here after the meeting. They went over to Lucky's to look at the site and talk about how they're gonna construct the cell and that kind of stuff over there. So all in all, it's looking pretty well. You know, we're not working, we're done drafting the budget. The draft budget is available on our website under the financial reports. There'll be a public hearing next Tuesday at the council meeting to adopt it and obviously set the millage rate for the coming year. But the last fund in there on the document is the Lake Restoration Fund. And we're projecting for this coming year, like $346,000 of revenue based on the millage rate, which is rolled back to 2.926 with Headley, and our taxable value at 118 million. So all in all, a pretty healthy amount of money. This project cost $385, I think that's up my head. So we had 140 saved up after we paid for Birch. So we're gonna be sitting in good shape for 26, 27. there are no plans yet in place for where we go. The committee is kind of feeling from day one where let's do Birch mechanically, let's do the river through hydraulic dredging. We'll get our feet wet with both kind of projects and see what we're comfortable, see what we learn, and then kind of go after the big one after that. Part of that too was if we want to tackle that in one big shot, it is something that we're gonna need to bond out for against the millage. So waiting, hopefully we'll see more favorable interest rates than we would right now. And also, quite candidly, if the anti-tax crusaders get their X my tax on the ballot and it were to pass, the lake millage goes away. So that's another thing to think about is we can't bond out for $3 million and lose that revenue from the millage to pay for it. So, but, what else we got? We are submitting an application probably tomorrow to the Michigan Department of Transportation for a Category B project, which is the pool of money that we accessed when we did Clubhouse Drive. The project that we're gonna look at is a resurfacing on Queensway from Drew down to Torcito, replacing the culverts at Crown Point, Castle, Granada, and Sevilla, and also doing Sevilla Street as well with an overlay. The engineering estimate on it was like 380-ish thousand, give or take. We just did that chip and fog 2-3 years ago. And our hope is, if we were able to put a new top on quick enough, that will actually act as a membrane between the underlying pavement and the overlay to kind of keep the reflective cracking out. We did a similar tool on El Camino. The emulsion mix on that road did have fiberglass interwoven into it, so it had more of a barrier than just a regular chip film. But a chip is considered a SAMI, sometimes stress absorbing membrane interlayer. So we're optimistic that if we could do that project, that's really gonna beef that road up for a considerable amount of time. What else we got here? Couple of different resident businesses, I guess, have come in and talked to me about potential projects that they're interested in. So the folks that acquired Al Davis's property over here on Coldwater Road, the whole shoes, they are looking to do a pretty significant size expansion on the building. Right now, let's see if I can bring it up here.
Who bought it?
The name is Holshoe. Dustin and Christian Holshoe. They're looking to do something over in here. They do like car electronic, light, audio type stuff that they ship out across the country. And it was trying to figure out storage options initially because they ran out of space. And
We put those big,
it's like, well, our ordinance allows you to put shipping containers out there. So
right,
he's like, I think I could do that because he was coming with all these sheds. I'm like, do a shipping container, it's way cheaper. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, oh god, that's so awesome. And then Ferrello, he wants to do something, and these lines aren't accurate on the GIS and where that property line is at, but
right,
probably demoing out grandma's house
Oh,
and putting in some like suite size accommodations. So continuing with their approved Airbnb option for the property. Not, large enough to be considered a duplex or something like that. So we're trying to, it's on my list of things to look through and figure out how that can be functional, on that property with him, but, and then I still haven't heard anything new from Protons. I believe they may be relocating their residents from down the end of Bundy to a place on El Camino that they're gonna build, so that may alter their plans to build out here. So nothing firm on that. We've had
house that's right next to where they wanna go just went up for sale,
Yeah,
so.
and we've had a couple of people call about doing stuff, hangar homes at the airport, and in full disclosure, we are telling everybody that the village is only grant obligated to operate that facility through the end of this calendar year.
Mhm.
There are no plans in place at this time for that facility beyond the end of 2025.
As far as the airport?
Correct.
That's gotta save some money.
We're getting out of the responsibility that we have taken over the years. Because it costs us way more money than it's ever used, the electricity for the lights.
Electricity,
maintaining,
insurance,
plowing,
mowing,
and grass
plowing.
mowing and all that crap
And
together.
runway maintenance.
$1,000, insurance, how much is insurance now?
1,500.
Okay, so but that's still gone up from what it is, but all that money put together was way more than any benefit the village gets out of it whatsoever, so. The idea was once our 20 years of not doing anything to it, we're up. Village is walking away from it in the sense of we are not gonna be responsible for the airport anymore, it'll be up to them if they wanna do it.
Yeah,
So
and then
Who's them?
the
airport,
association.
the pilots.
Yeah.
So that plat over there wrote themselves out of the LIPOA back in like 2000, so they're their own
Long time.
HOA,
Mhm.
POA over there.
Yep.
And we've made it very clearly known to them of our intention and desire for them to. Our suggestion was, form a separate LLC that's you guys, so it doesn't impact the non-pilots in your POA. And transfer ownership into that LLC.
Is there any regulation on them, on that property? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that
Michigan.
I see places that
Michigan
do
Aeronautic.
not have,
What is it, Michigan what,
Aeronautics Commission.
Aeronautic Commission?
no,
You
I'm
have to
talking
meet-
about hangars.
Oh, okay, I thought you put
No,
the
you put a
runway
hanger.
itself.
Right, right now our zoning allows hangars in the airport residential district.
Yep.
So that's any of the properties that touch the airport, and then over here. From here. These are airport residential. From here on over, you're Lake Residential 1. And we've been having people call about these lots wanting to put hangars on, and it's like, no, it's zoned Lake Residential 1.
Can't cross the road in the airport.
Yeah, there's no way you can get a plane over there.
That's the main reason why.
Yeah, okay, so he's talking more of. The use of the building. That you put on the, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people don't use it.
Correct. Yeah, most people
I
are.
know quite a few that don't have any airplanes or anything in there, but honestly, my personal opinion, I don't care what's inside. I just care about what it looks like on the outside.
As long as the building could, we have a design standard in there that you have
Right.
to have a 40-foot door, a 10x40 door to be considered a hangar. So any of those that could be built as a hangar have to have that door specifically so it could accommodate a plane.
Now, is that changing come the end of the year?
Who knows? So there are no plans in place, and with no disrespect to the airport,
Mhm.
figuring out hangar zoning is kind of low on my list of things that are
I'll be
on
curious,
my mind at the moment.
I'll be curious to see what they do, whether Michigan Aeronautics steps in and that, because
They
the
won't.
runway responsibilities and things like that. So that's my main concern, if not, Michigan would, if they don't maintain it, Michigan will probably shut them down, I'm guessing.
We're saying, we're not gonna transfer ownership unless they are going to do it.
Oh,
If they don't want it, we will come up with a different plan for the facility.
I didn't know that, I thought we were just walking away from the
No.
responsibilities, I knew it was still part of the village,
Yeah,
still falls under village ordinances and rules.
we would
But,
like to see it stay an airport, and we'd like to see the people who use it continue to use it, but if they
Right.
don't want that obligation. We'll figure out something else to do with the property, but we're not gonna give it away.
and it's a financial obligation more than anything else, so.
I got one more question about the village actually lets containers. You were saying something about containers over here.
In our commercial district,
That surprises me.
In the commercial district only, so.
Yeah.
Any limit?
I don't love it
One
either,
per
but it's the way it is, I mean, I'd rather have the shipping container there with stuff in it. Than have all the stuff just laying around the yard or laying around whatever.
on a developed
Yeah.
commercial property, you can have 1 per acre.
Right, but I'm just, I mean, I get the impression you don't like the shipping containers at all, so.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about
Mhm.
whether it's residential or commercial, and
Right.
you put your strict, your strict,
Rules.
rules
Right.
on certain stuff, but you'll throw a Chinese container out here that.
There's been one behind out of bounds for years and nobody said a thing.
I forgot about that. There was one, but it was hidden.
Still.
Yep.
And Al had them in the, over here in front of in this part.
Storage area, his was farther back.
Yeah,
The new one, they got right up by the building.
yeah, they're right in front there.
Yeah, a lot of townships are doing away with allowing them,
Yeah, we won't let you do it in a residential area,
Right,
you know.
well, even in commercial, allow them to do it, away, and then if they don't do away with it, they're putting, stipulations in like, screening and such, so that you don't see it from the roadways,
Yep.
you know.
At least they maintain them so they're not a bunch of rust buckets.
That way they're
Sure,
not a
right.
public, that way they're not a public eyesore either, you know,
and what'd you say it was 1 per acre?
1 per acre.
So I mean,
That's a
Kind of
5 acre
limited.
parcel, he's got his 5.
right, a quick question if you're done with everything else. On 7, when they're doing the dredging. Are they only dredging up to the village line where it crosses the river, or are they gonna go farther up than that, do you know? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna draw the scope of the project.
Where's the village line then? I guess how. Well, they could go past the village.
Well, that's why I'm asking, so I know the piping's gonna go way past that, I'm curious if they're gonna dredge up only to the village limit. Or are they gonna continue dredging up farther than that too, so.
Why would you dredge over it when those people aren't paying for the?
That's why my question, I'm curious to see how far up they're gonna go. But the line itself is gonna go all the way up under the bridge on Drew Road.
Yeah, and then, yeah,
Into the quarry pit or whatever
Yeah.
that's gonna be in there, which I get that, I'm just curious how far up they're gonna suck the sand, so.
That's roughly the project area right there.
Okay.
Playa Park, Riviera Park.
Okay. I thought they were gonna start further than that and just work around Riviera Park only, but.
No, they're
Okay.
starting at Riviera and going north.
Oh,
So
Riviera.
they're starting down here.
Oh, I was thinking
Going
about
up.
that way, okay, all right. But basically they're staying within the village limits.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then they're gonna up here, pump it. Kind of all the way, right in here is where
oh, I thought they were gonna go over the quarry, so,
no, Lucky's
Okay.
is right here. We're gonna do it right here.
so they're just gonna build a sand pile there,
We're gonna build, like you saw in the videos, a big kind of.
Well,
cell.
Yeah.
or? Okay.
It's a sand pile with a liner in it,
Yeah,
right?
but, yep, liner and some pipes coming out. Little detention pond. And then, obviously, the council adopted the zoning code amendments that, you guys have worked on, those have all been codified. So if you go to our website. All of the individual sections are updated, and then you want the complete copy as of June 1st, and you just click there and get the whole ordinance.
Any progress on chickens down in Lansing?
Nope, nothing.
Okay,
Nothing at all. Tax bills will be going out here at the end of the month. We, got all those
We're all
done.
excited about that.
That's right.
save a little bit of money, still not doing the police stuff, right? Yeah. There's no police stuff on the new tax bill?
Correct.
Okay, we'll save a little bit of money,
Any news on
but the dredging one will be on there.
conversation with the city?
No, I've not heard from them.
Oh, the city police?
Yeah.
Their meeting is next Monday, the 16th, I believe. So,
so we're 6 months in, have you seen any rise in crime here?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah, summertime, it's just gonna get worse when the kids are out of school.
very, very much so.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I've been
And
told,
more troubling than anything is the delay in response time for certain type of incidents that we're seeing a higher volume of. Things that would necessitate a professional to separate people from each other.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you might want, I would tell you, start talking to your neighbors and tell your neighbors and say, hey, you have a
That's pretty much.
freestanding gas tank on your boat
That's what I think.
or anything that you don't want stolen, take it out and
Well,
not using your
place.
boat. Cause otherwise they either come and steal it if it's unhooked and run away, or they come in and suck it all out into their own container and run off with it. And I'm pretty sure that's probably kids to be able to do their dirt bikes and their 4x4s and stuff like that. But I would assume this summer it's gonna get bad because they know there's no police presence around here at all.
And it's also problematic too, because in some of those calls that are gonna necessitate an ambulance or rescue,
Mhm.
they're not going to enter the scene until a law enforcement officer has secured it for them, so. You know, you have a domestic or something like that where someone needs medical attention and they have to wait for a state unit to get here.
And a local fire department just went through some training for some of that too. Or how to handle situations like that.
We had an incident on Queensway last month where 7:30 in the morning, it spilled over and guy was confronting cars that were driving by and grabbed onto the door handle of somebody and drove off and, yeah,
Wow,
got his arm run over and,
I hadn't heard about that one. So.
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, hopefully city police works their stuff out, but that's not only gonna be for the holiday stuff, right?
No,
What am I thinking? Oh, I'm sorry.
They got
I'm
lake
thinking, no, the boat patrol is what I was thinking, so only for the holidays, so.
you know, and it's still gonna be a crapshoot, it always is, you know, but. Yeah, the calls out here are definitely still there,
There's still roughly petty stuff, I hope.
for the most part, we've got a handful of places that are. Dysfunctional relationally, that are,
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
but honestly, we're not seeing a lot of the gas cans and that kind of stuff. You know, it's.
Mhm.
It's up.
I guess that's what I was getting at, is it stuff that's always been there, like when you're saying, I say it without saying, domestic violence, that I'm assuming had already been kind of there, it was just treated, or they knew there was law enforcement. I was looking at more of, because people know that there isn't anything out here, is if anything is grown as far as crime.
Nothing that jumps out in terms of like, you know, gas cans, that kind of stuff.
Break-ins.
What you are definitely seeing is a noticeable increase of traffic speed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That.
I seen somebody you guys put a sign, is that a new sign on, Clubhouse? Well, no, well, I see the one on Clubhouse,
Yeah,
that's a lighted,
Yeah,
deal, but
kind of shows your speed.
El Camino, the signs for the curves and stuff, that's new.
yeah, the one over
Clubhouse.
on, El Camino.
Yeah.
Oh,
Someone ended up in somebody's front yard.
oh.
Make that corner a little bit more noticeable. Yeah, and truthfully, my oldest daughter is 16, so we've done, you know, driver's ed in segment 1, so. Working with her to teach her how to drive, it was actually very enlightening to drive around the village with her as an inexperienced driver who doesn't know our roads. And think, you know what, we should put a sign here, we should put a sign here, you know, stuff like that, that. I take for granted because I've lived here for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
of course.
But somebody new.
but somebody new, yeah, so, but. Yeah, we did that in El Camino, modeled it off of what we did on the curve on Queensway in the winter after we had a vehicle go off there, You know, we're gonna look at putting in a couple additional street lights at some intersections in our next budget year, Queensway and Sevilla and. Villado and DeQuessa. You know, a couple of the higher traffic, lower local street intersections with our major streets, stuff like that, so.
Do we have a neighborhood watch, of some sort? I mean.
Not really anymore.
No, okay.
We had a couple of neighborhoods that were kind of doing it. The one at Vine was championed by Larry Heater, who's moved away.
Yeah,
And it was also, without the backing of the sheriff's department, it's kind of an uphill battle, because they would, if they wanted to, they would come out and, you know, meet with them, or they would share information, and we, you know, state police doesn't do that, so. You know, the sheriff's too busy running the jail, and nothing else,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah,
Um. But, you know, the city of Mount Pleasant is launching, a database of people who have security cameras. You know, something like that, I think would be well done out here, you know. You don't give us access or anything like that, but. You know, if there was an incident, we could go to the state police or whoever and say, these are all the people within, you know, a block or two that have cameras that may have seen this, you know. To at least, you know, act as a deterrent in that way, so. That is what I have. Oh, and we're buying a tractor. So. And a new mower. Hopefully we get some shoulder mowing done soon.
Just long.
okay, so that's it. So village council, is that you?
That'd be Joe.
Joe,
Anything to share?
from the last meeting.
Kim covered most of it.
Oh, okay.
See factors, some of the road improvements and changes.
When we have our last meeting that talked about anything. We renewed the fire special assessment district. We improved the updates to the animal control ordinance. And that's it.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing sexy.
We have no public hearing.
Nope.
And,
No public comment.
yeah, public comment? No. Existing business, so master plan update.
Still working.
Yeah.
I am behind. I apologize. You know. Jessica was off for 3 weeks, so I was,
Oh, okay.
you know. And it's budget season, and she came back and we're into pre-audit and getting tax bills out, and
Yeah.
interesting, I was reading a discussion on LinkedIn from a planner talking about the frustration of, you know, counter and phone contacts with people who can get all the information easily accessible off your website and don't care, won't go there, they want to call and talk to somebody, and it's like, you know, I probably lose an hour and a half a day on stuff like that, from people calling with, like, you can easily go to the one page on our website that tells you all this stuff. I've been having a lot of dog issues too, what we've been dealing with code enforcement wise, so. Yeah, we are admittedly behind, but we're making progress. You know, one thing about that. Once you guys get the draft, it has to be then approved by the council for distribution, and then there's a 63-day public comment period that has to elapse. In looking at our upcoming schedule. The other two is a problem. I will not be in the United States of America on July 8th.
Oh.
Just next door in Canada, but.
Well, hey.
I would think in Russia, but okay.
No,
No, you don't wanna go to Russia.
No.
I'm telling you.
Not Ukraine.
No. I wouldn't go. So what's the scoop?
Move the planning commission meeting.
so, yeah, the first isn't fantastic. I have supposed to have a meeting for Shepherd that night, but
About 22nd.
I'd love to be able to have the council approve for distribution on the 15th. That way we could still adopt it in October.
So you're looking somewhere between the 9th, 10th and the 11th? Which
I'm going the week of the 7th.
the week of the 7th. So you're looking at to push that ahead a week.
So theoretically,
You said the first isn't good for you, so they.
Actually.
The second or the third, just before the holiday.
Yeah. Cause I also want you guys to have a chance to review it too.
Again, without putting pressure, when do you think you'd have that available?
Oh, that's a great question, fellas. Well, Thursday and Friday this week for a medical procedure. Next week I'm on vacation, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the following.
Man, you're roughing it.
Yeah, take it. No, let us take vacation, it never does, so I know, I want to, God, so.
Go.
Out of the country, these are better.
So
Nobody can guess what we.
here's my question for you guys. Would it be? Cause I do want you to have a chance to review and comment before you recommend it to the council. Cause, you know, we're gonna talk about housing and lots and north and that kind of stuff. Would you be comfortable with getting it sometime in mid-July? And then having the ability to change it and recommend it out at the August 12th meeting? So the council can move it out on the 19th. Which will then put them into adopting it after your hearing in November. So you guys have only hearing that on like November 11th. They could adopt it thereafter.
I don't
don't think that's standing that
Okay.
critical. That's a problem for me.
How did you find out from Amy and,
Yeah.
oh,
Mike,
Mike, yeah, sorry. And they're okay with it, make sure we have at least a quorum.
Yeah, I think that probably should. I just wanna make sure that that time frame was acceptable to you guys.
actually. And it's not gonna be the end of that, right?
No, your guys' meeting the second two was at the 12th. Yeah, you're the 12th,
We're in down a trip out of town.
council's the 19th. The school starts 21st.
Give me a short summer.
That's awful.
Mhm.
Are you not glad to have the kids gone, back to school?
No, you know,
You're not at home all day long anyway, so. And they're old now.
if you're gonna start the kids in mid-August,
Mhm.
end at Memorial Day, and Chick Hills did. There, no,
Mhm.
we're still going into the first week of June.
It'd be a city, so.
Yeah.
Mhm, Yep.
And I don't get it, like, when I was at school, you started end of August or after Labor Day, and you ended the second week of June, and your life was fine.
Mhm. You got your 180 days, yeah?
But now if you can squeeze that extra week of practice in for sports.
And back at that, probably at that time you had a lot more snow.
Yeah.
Snow days and, yeah. I remember when.
I don't think you had more,
School
we
is-
were tougher back then.
I was just gonna say,
Well, 6 inches was a nuisance.
You get a skiff penalty.
Close with 6 inches.
no, right, I mean, we had to
12
walk,
inches or more, it closed.
yeah,
but
we had to walk.
6
down the
inches
end of
was
the
just,
street.
to walk through it as a nuisance, it was a pain in the butt,
More the cold and the wind versus
yeah.
how much snow we got.
That's just the way it is, you know. Safety
Mhm.
first, I think.
I think it's overreactive, though, I agree with it, I think they overreact more now than what they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. Back when we were just youngins.
Well, I remember, station wings had the rear seat reversed with no seatbelts.
But they did that one, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. That was a fun way to ride around.
School starts the
Don't
21st and ends the 3rd.
Don't the schools get their choice now when to start?
They're supposed to work off the ISD. The ISD is
Oh,
the
okay.
calendar, my understanding.
District, so, but that makes more sense.
You know, to me, I just think it's dumb that you start a week with 2 days and you end a week with 2.5 days.
Yeah.
You know. Start later and end on a Friday, start on a Monday and on a Friday,
Yeah, we
You
get the
know.
whole weekend, so.
you know, cause then you run the first week is 2 days, the third week is 4 days, then it's 4 days, and you know, the last weeks are 4, 3, and 2.5, so.
Just think if you're an athletic director trying to figure out, schedule all the different sports. And think for girls and guys, sports, baseball and soccer and all that.
Practice.
and all the practices and try to get meets set up and, oh my God.
Mhm. So I'm gonna put, draft mid-July. August 12th, okay. August 19, council. November 11th, hearing. I wonder if the state will let me slide that into January. Because it goes by the year, so if we, we're trying to do a grant on our master plan,
Okay.
like, look, we're doing it in November, why don't you just let me wait 6 weeks and I can say it's adopted in 26 and get a whole other calendar year out of it. But neither. Other than that, it's about sheds.
Shit on bacon.
Sheds. So. Let me read specifically what was adopted. Storage sheds may be placed on vacant parcels provided it meets the following conditions. That meets required setbacks. Not be serviced by utilities. The shed meets the design requirements for vacant lot sheds adopted by a resolution of the planning commission or approved by the planning commission. If you're on a vacant parcel that's less than a half acre, you got 120 square feet. Sheds on vacant lot shall use a skid foundation and may be placed on a gravel or paved pad. Concrete block, concrete piers, and timber frame foundation shall not be permitted.
It may be placed or must be placed on gravel or paved, or we don't care.
May be placed on gravel or paved.
So we're
Not
not forcing them to
requirement.
do it. If they wanna put it on grass, leave the grass to die
Yeah.
under it, that's fine,
Yeah.
so, okay. I mean, the grass will go back.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So the key in there is the design requirements adopted by the planning commission. And I was been trying to think about which ways to do this. And there are kind of 3 different options that I came up with. Or at least at the front of my mind. So for big garages, we have the point system. And design requirements, and here's all the things that you can do to get points. I think with sheds, we probably don't need to be that engrossed. I'm not opposed at all to reaching out to any of the shed company vendor dealers and saying, if you've got models and you wanna send them over, we will pre-approve them. So someone come in and say, yep, I'm doing that shed. I think that's perfectly fine as well. And the other kind of thought I had was with some type of, I don't know if I can find a good example here.
I got a quick question. Why can't we just have the requirements on a vacant property, other than the square footage?
Yeah.
The same that's on a home.
Lot with a home already on it.
What's that? Yeah.
But your lot-
I mean, you got requirements that it's supposed to match the.
Not for sheds.
Uh,
Not for sheds, it doesn't.
My biggest worry is that.
The sheds don't have to match your house.
No. Garages do,
Garages.
but the sheds don't. That'd be hard to do. As much as I would love to see it that
Same
way,
material.
but.
No.
Cause the sheds don't match anything to what the garage do, correct me if I'm wrong, but.
The LR1, LR2 sheds are required to have exterior sides of wood, resin, or vinyl. Metal sheds, metal roofs are allowed, metal sheds.
Oh, okay, that's where the vinyl came from.
My biggest worry is somebody goes out and buys the cheapest frickin' shed they can buy that meets our requirements and puts it on there, that's.
No,
You
that's
know.
going to happen.
I know it's gonna happen, so, but,
The other thing that we're gonna find happening is people are gonna start using their sheds as little party spaces on these empty lots.
Right.
Then you're gonna have people sleeping and converting to little, makeshift tiny homes,
I don't think so. I mean, if you can't hook power to it, you could say that you can bring a generator. Well, if I'm here and you got a lot, and you're wanting to use that lot, cause you buy that lot, you should be able to use it a little bit, so if they bring a generator and they have power, it's just like, you're not gonna have people living in them when they can't go to the bathroom. If they do,
Oh, they can have a porta
it
potty.
isn't gonna matter what stipulations you put in it, if it's that type of person, they're gonna do it anyway.
I would not wanna have somebody on a vacant lot with a generator going all night next to me, no way.
Oh, no,
That to me is a.
me either, but.
It's not going to be all of them, but that is going to be something that comes
But
up.
what I'm
We
saying
talked
is
about that in our meeting too.
Make those restrictions when they come.
And
out.
that's why we said no power, because that will be.
That's gonna be right on the permit.
But
Yeah, but what I am saying is it's a portable shed. Is there something in our plan that says that? Even if they don't have a shed, that they come to their lot, they can't bring a generator?
Noise ordinance.
It's not, but noise would be, yeah, I mean,
If they got a quiet Honda,
right, I was
It's
just gonna say, if they're a tiny quiet Honda, that's a little bit
Yeah,
different
and-
for me, but.
We're gonna enforce that with a complaint. Someone's gonna complain to us and that's when we're gonna have to
Right.
enforce it.
but all I'm
But
getting
that's-
at is, it's,
Well, the idea is that they're not supposed to be camping and staying overnight there anyways,
Yeah, you can't stay overnight.
for any reason whatsoever, so.
I realize so, but I don't think dictating. To a T of what type of shed they have is
Mhm.
going to, other than square footage,
Okay,
is gonna make it more or less for that item right there. Of them living in it. So
I'm sorry.
the dictation would be is their looks of a shed,
Mhm.
so. That's where I go back to the ones that are at a residence. Other than the square footage,
Mhm.
why can't you go off of what you can put at your house?
But at your house right now, you can put electricity to a shed, can't you?
No,
I didn't say that, I'm not
Okay,
going with the
but
electricity.
I would take you literally, meaning
No,
whatever
but-
you can do
no,
on
I'm talking
home
about
property.
the way it's,
Okay.
you're gonna,
but in
what
that-
we're trying, it sounds like we're trying to do is. Here's a list of 3 or 4 buildings that you have to purchase if you want. A shed on, I mean, I would think that if somebody wants to, that's mechanically inclined to build a shed, you can do it on your residence. If they can do it with
I
it
don't think
on
it's
skids.
restricted that you have to have these models. I think
Hmm.
that's an option that they're already pre-approved and
Right,
easy to go. But can you build your own? Yeah,
Sure.
give us a building plan of what you're gonna build. Give us something that you want instead of, I wanna build myself a 10 by 20 or 10 by 15 shed. Okay, that's good. What materials, what kind of shape, size, what are you building?
Right, but what I'm saying is that just to make it simple here. Instead of trying to give them, this is. You can go off of the same guidelines. With no electricity hooked up. With a couple of ads and go off of
Mhm.
the exact same. You change the square footage, you add, there's no power,
Well, here's the list when you get your permit. Here are our rules for the sheds. And you must conform to those rules. That's what you give out at the permit. That says, yes, you can't, there's no staying overnight. Okay, there is no permanent electricity
Mhm.
provided there. Yes, you can use it for storing your,
I mean, that would be the biggest thing, you can't have a porch on, so they already know that. You can't have power, you cannot live in it. You cannot live in it in the weekend, it would be more of things that. They would do with it than how to build it. This is a model you could use, this is a
but
model,
I think that
you could do.
that's pretty much.
I get your point, though.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that shed on property with a house versus that shed on a vacant lot, minus the electricity and the set up bathrooms and that kind of stuff?
And then you're
I
not
get-
changing a whole
Okay, I
lot.
get that point. I mean, who's to say that I don't have a shed on my lot here with a house and I have it on skids and I drag it over to the vacant lot for the summertime. So I can put all my stuff in there and use it and then maybe drag it back again in the in the wintertime, that shed, maybe it's on a different property, but it's the same shed, so I get your point in that sense, that.
Cause if we
It doesn't
start
really matter.
changing stuff, that's what people's gonna say, well, why can, I mean,
I can
other
do
than
it here, but I can't do it
electricity,
there.
yeah, why can't I build one just like on a house?
Right,
The thought I had of like the good, better, best is illustration, like. A shed like this, you could say, this is good, it's got, you know. French style doors, it's got some windows, it's got, you know, the faux shutters, I would say that's good. I would say though that
That's a $7,500 shed.
this is best. This, you've got the little fake cupola, you've got the fake flower boxes, I mean.
Right.
If we're doing these on vacant lots, you know, I think nobody wants just to see the.
Well, we're really limiting the.
No one wants to,
Industrial-
but you're gonna try to make it look so pretty that somebody's gonna wanna stay in it.
Right,
Just
yeah, no,
like, just like the shed over here, just like the shed that she had.
This, you know,
I mean, I understand what you're saying
Yeah.
there, but you could build that on your house, at your residence right now.
yeah, but you have a house there.
What's it matter?
I think it matters a ton. I think if you're gonna
If it
build,
looks ugly by a house, it's gonna look ugly in a vacant lot.
you're gonna have the scale of the home that. Blocks the view of that substantially more than. a
I
shed
disagree.
itself.
Cause you're pretty much putting a point system on a shed. And I'm not a big fan of the point system, but
but I think the
that's
point,
just me.
the point of having a point system is to try to rule out somebody putting in the cheapest, ugliest shed they can put in. Because they're not willing to spend the money, that's what bothers me.
right,
Now, I'm coming from a point, I don't.
That's
want
coming,
I didn't
you're
want to
saying
say
that.
period at all, so I'm coming from a very negative point.
No,
I don't
I
think
understand
that
what
in
you're
the
saying,
first place,
but
but
at the same time, you're gonna. I get it as, and I look at it as you're wanting the best. For the most part, you want something pretty nice, which if that lot was right by my house, I wouldn't want a piece of junk either. I wouldn't consider that bad.
This,
It's the upkeep on it that
Mhm.
makes it good or bad. Them plastic ones, there's one right down the road from mine, it's caved in.
Yeah.
It's been caved in for
That's
a
what
year,
worries me, that's what I don't wanna see. on
but
different lots.
it's upkeep. If
Mhm.
if they would have beat it back up or get rid of it or whatever, it's not that was a ugly looking shed. It's the people that take care of it. So you end up and them type of people that don't take care of the crap are the same people that'll make a mess out in that.
Yeah.
Out in that lot without a shed. So do you want all that crap? In a shed that might turn to crap?
Wouldn't that come into a?
Or do you wanna see it all out in the yard?
Is
That's
this,
the way I'd see that.
the way we're focusing on this, is this vacant lots, no matter where they are, or we're
Yes.
talking vacant
Anyway.
lots only on the water?
anyway.
There's just setbacks and stuff that.
Right,
make
but I wanted
it
to
different, right?
On the water, I would expect people.
I think
going
that's
on the
setbacks,
water
right?
to spend more money in the
Yes.
shed.
That all goes by the
Why
setbacks,
would
right, Tim?
why would they though? And I do agree with what you're saying. I personally come from the stance that like. You know, and it sounds horrible because of my role, but personally, I think people should be able to do within reason what they want with their property. As long as it's not affecting the neighbors and, but unfortunately, we have to put guidelines in to keep the peace, sometimes, which is what you're referring to. It can be easy to get too picky, for lack of better terms, as far as the regulations we put on stuff. We've already limited it to that these sheds are basically only gonna be able to be used for storage. So most people, whether they own a lot, and most of the lots that we're talking about are lots that people can't build on for whatever reason.
And most of these lots, most of these vacant lots are not going to be that you're gonna see a shed. My guess would be, it's not gonna be lakefront. If somebody owns a chunk of lakefront property,
Well, some people will.
We already had one last
Yeah,
year.
some people will because.
The three people who came and spoke at the meeting were all lakefront owners.
Yeah.
And I can see somebody with a lakefront having a nice shed out there, bonfire pit, some chairs sitting out in
Yeah.
front of the shed. You're gonna use it for like an all day kind of thing. And maybe into the night with the bonfire stuff, so
But
I'm
didn't we
looking
have
at a
the
minimum
setbacks
requirement
on that, so you
and build
pretty
it
much
up there.
can't see it from the lake?
Well, 50 feet, I think.
Don't you have the picture, the one that was placed there illegally the
Yeah,
last year or
50
the year before?
50
And it was a nice looking. shed.
Nice.
It just wasn't allowed at that.
It
point.
was
Yeah.
right next
It
to
was
the.
up because the neighbors lived across River Road
Yeah.
and they had to come like
Yeah.
450 feet
Yeah.
to bring all their
You're not
stuff for.
You're talking
Being
about the
able to
ladies,
shed.
one that looked like a
In the
house.
center.
Yeah,
of
the
your-
brown and
Brown,
orange.
at the rear view.
Yeah.
One that they
Kind of look
could
like
run out there.
this.
Yeah.
Kind of look like that.
Yeah, I can deal with
That's,
something like
that's
that.
what I'm getting at, is
Right.
you're gonna say that you can go ahead and put a shed like that up.
Yep.
And pay the price for that shed,
Yep.
but don't stay the night in it. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
They're gonna spend $10,000 on a shed to
Yeah,
be
and I
able
would
to
expect,
house their
I would,
kayak and their lawnmower.
right? What if somebody just owns a piece of vacant land here and they just, that's all they do is bring the shed out, put the shed up, it's not even on the waterfront. But they use it to party all day long, have a bonfire, sit around the bonfire, as long as they don't stay overnight, have electricity or a porta potty.
Right, who's
That's
gonna,
kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
who's going to enforce that though?
Yeah.
We have, well, I
We,
mean,
we have code enforcement.
overnight
We-
parks.
Right. Swamp. What
I know of a couple lots that do that.
And that's exactly
They
what,
come in during the day.
some people are going to do,
And they
because
can't,
the
right
only
now, they're not in a position to.
point
build.
of having a nice structure on a vacant lot is so that you could
No.
use that.
This is.
You know,
on
because
the
currently,
south end
you
of
know,
the lake.
you can't have a
The guy
camper on a lot
had-
that doesn't have
They have a
residents.
shed.
so you have to think of it
That's what we can
beyond,
afford right
this isn't gonna be a shed just for shed, just.
It's just used during the daytime.
It can be a shed, I'm
They
saying,
can
guessing
do
a lot of
because
ways,
they can have-
that's gonna be used like an all-day
Yeah,
use
but
type thing. I come out like a
Right,
bella,
right,
my
but-
lot,
They have.
have a bonfire at night, do whatever I wanna do, and then hopefully leave and go home at night.
Right.
Hopefully,
You know.
that's the, you know.
But we've got,
And that's-
you know,
that's what I.
a lot of neighbors will report, they're staying overnight on their vacant lot, put a camper out there, put a tent out. It usually gets reported, and they
From the.
do a good job about saying no.
Right, again, down the street, they just.
Is it 100% of the time? Probably
Yeah.
not,
Yeah, that he has,
but
there's that,
I don't know, I'm still, I would rather not have one all, but I gotta open my mind up to Lisa say, okay, that's the way we're done with it.
Correctly,
What do we want for aesthetics?
Okay,
So here's my question, you guys.
Park it there.
Yeah.
Is-
I haven't seen anything going on.
I would say this is a very basic shed
Okay.
up there, the big.
The tan one, yeah.
Yep. Would an acceptable trade-off be, all right, if you did some type of basic shed, you've also gotta throw in some landscaping to
No, 'cause
No.
you're making
Pretty
it,
double.
you're making it portable on a skid, so it's temporarily, I wouldn't make them.
Yeah.
I go put stuff around it.
You know, and
even something just as simple as that.
in a, you know, and it, from my understanding is, the reason this was brought about was because people initially anyways, when we first started talking about it at our meetings, was that people wanted to be able to leave their lawnmower and stuff there, so that,
Yeah.
so that they don't, so that they don't have to, you know, pull the trailer and bring their
All the
mower.
rocking chairs and all the other crap that.
Yeah.
comes in there.
You know.
Yeah.
But once they're there, people are gonna start using that, you know, for that.
Yeah.
You know,
My-
there's just no getting around it. It may not be everybody, but I guarantee, once people start putting sheds up, we will start getting reports that, oh, so-and-so's camping out for the weekend over 4th of July or Memorial Day weekend. Because they can't have a camper there, so if they can put up a nice building and they could stay in that,
Mhm.
why would they not? I mean, you know.
And I'm gonna tell you, we got people that camp on vacant lots on 4th of July weekend, and the way I've always policed it is, they get a letter sent to them on Monday after the holiday that says, don't do this again.
All right,
Cause I'm not going on somebody's lot at 8 o'clock at night after they've been out doing God knows what all day and telling them you can't camp here. Like, this is not
yeah.
a scenario that works well.
No, you get your warning letter.
After they've had a case of beer, then no.
Right,
That's
exactly.
not, that is not.
Yeah.
I like
that's
the idea, I like the idea of more decorated kind of stuff. My worry again, if it's a vacant lot and it has windows on it, are people gonna break in windows?
Absolutely,
You know,
You know,
I know it's gonna
yeah,
happen. I don't want it to, but I know it's going to.
you know,
But I guess that's the risk they need to take.
Yeah.
If we have some requirements of a little bit more
Well, again,
decorated.
if you're gonna use a shed and park stuff in the shed, you're not gonna leave critical things. All right,
well, I
that's
mean,
in there Yeah, you have a lawnmower.
I would.
Hopefully you've got the stuff insured.
If
To
it's-
the
if
point
it's
that if you
lockable,
get stolen, you
right.
come on, make a point, and there you go.
Yep.
But other than that, you're not gonna go, put some very expensive things.
Well, I mean, lawnmowers are very expensive, tools, anything that you're going to leave there.
Just dealing the gas
The
alone.
the stuff that people are gonna wanna put in the sheds, that
Yeah.
that is stuff expensive, so why would why would we require them to put,
Sure, that's fair.
to beautify their storage shed, because ideally, we're just trying to tell people, okay, yeah, you can have a storage shed. We don't wanna promote having nice little log cabin looking places, because
I mean,
then,
you don't wanna dive there either, but.
That's my point.
don't.
Minimum
get me wrong.
requirements,
Yeah.
whatever you do about that,
Right.
is fine with me, but
You know.
minimum
And
requirements.
the
Yes.
minimum requirement should be the same as what's on
You
a regular.
I could see that, so.
and if somebody has the means, they wanna build a nice cute shed and that, make it look like a little cabin and stuff, just to house their lawnmower and, excellent.
Yeah, I'm not
It makes it look
opposed
nice,
to it, but.
How much was that shed?
That was like, this is from Walmart, it's got.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, but I mean, I wanted to see, okay,
Well, 1,500.
8 foot by 8 foot,
Oh, boy.
with gable panelized storage sheds.
I've got enough
We're still
material in
talking
my backyard to
50,
build that. You know?
So you look at it, it's really for the use that it's intended. So people come in, do you understand the rules? That it's really meant to be a storage shed.
Yeah,
Do you understand why that? That means you're not camping there, you're not there. You could put all your stuff inside and lock it up. That's okay,
and we are doing
all right?
via permits.
But again,
Oh,
to
yeah.
plan on staying there
And that
overnight.
would be a big. Bold marking on the permit or.
Yeah,
as they-
well, I
As
think,
they bring it in,
You give them a copy of the rules.
yes.
you give them a
Yeah.
copy, but
Some black
you try to tell them, but I mean, other than that.
You haven't
got-
signed a statement.
It
that you
is
understand.
what it is,
Yeah.
otherwise.
You
you
haven't
say-
signed a statement that you understand this is a storage shed, here are the
Yeah.
rules, you gotta sign that to get your
And
permit.
then whether they do or
That
not.
should be given out with the application, and then part
That's
of the
it.
application to say, I have been given this and accept or.
And that's it.
You know,
Then they know if there's a problem, then they can suffer the consequence, if someone complains, or if they break the rules, okay? But again, if someone did a simple, I'm trying to can't think of a simple example of a slight oops. I'm not gonna get that upset, all right? But basically, yeah. Don't you understand the reason? So if you do something wrong, understand that there are penalties. You understand that? All right, and up to removing the shed. All right, anything up to and inclusive of removing the shed. And you'll have to.
Yeah, and I would think that, yeah, that would be a pretty good bite if you said, within.
Could be a
if
fine,
you
could be
got-
this, up to and inclusive of removal of the shed, you will not be allowed another permit.
is that what you want there, Tim? You want you a hobbit house
That's
front
it.
yard?
All right, right there.
Do the Shire,
There you go.
there we go.
Oh,
The storage shed.
Yep. I don't know, just in my mind, I'm actually looking to avoid now, I can see people doing it in the storage shed. Such as the lady wanted to do, so they don't have to haul all their stuff 500 feet away. To enjoy the lake that day, but I can see more people doing it that way, especially waterfront. Being able to say, okay, I can put a shed on there now, it's not a storage shed in the sense you're not gonna have lawnmowers and all that stuff in there, I could see it being water equipment. Vest
A
and
lot of them
paddles
making,
and stuff like that, and I can see them staying there at night with the
Yeah.
bonfire and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and only enjoying their lot. For the day, not overnight though.
right,
So, and I guess I can see them bringing a generator if they wanted to do something like that, but it would have to be something that's quiet.
Yeah, but
In my.
I
think you're also-
There's so much battery stuff.
I was gonna say, you're completely oblivious to the world of jacker. Like, you
Oh,
don't
I-
need a generator. You can get a jackery. And it's a portable battery. You
Okay,
can bring that out and run all that crap off of, cause it's already
I
pre-charged.
guess that's what I was getting
Yeah,
at, is when
right.
you're talking about livable, I mean,
Yeah,
you need power
mhm.
and you need a place to go to the bathroom. and a place to stay, right?
So is there anything preventing anybody from putting a, like a portage on their vacation?
That's,
Oh, yeah,
you
we do
can't
not
put
allow
portage.
that.
That's what I'm saying, so you can't put portage on, so for somebody to stay the night. I mean,
And
unless you wasted, the biggest thing would be, I got a shed now. They get wasted and think that that's,
And that's gonna occur. I mean,
but
it's
that's gonna occur no matter what stipulations you put
on
on
the shed, yeah.
the shed.
I'm saying
Yeah.
just allowing them to have a shed on a vacant lot, you know. Now, as far as the lakefront lots, I know we talk about lakefront all the time. What? Do we have any idea of like what percentage of the vacant lots currently are unbuildable for most parts? Cause I've heard people talking about, you know, that some of the lots are too small to, you know.
No, I mean, there'll be a handful here and there that for whatever reason don't pass soil evaluation, but. Predominantly everything is buildable.
Yeah.
There are some on Channel Drive specifically that are very narrow that you may run into some problems with. And I know of one or two on Birdie that have bad soils, but other than that, like, you know.
Yeah, I-
Buildability isn't a concern for most people anymore.
Again, you can't legislate for. No matter what you're talking about. The crazy guys, crazy people. All right, I'll use crazy people because I don't know how else to
Right.
say it appropriately that. 99% of the population will do it right. It's the 1% or 2% that. We just gotta watch.
Yeah.
well, it comes down to. Policing it in the sense that if we're gonna do it, we can't let those 5% people get away with it because
That
if
is
they get
correct.
away with it.
That's.
I don't know exactly where these lakefront lots are, but I mean, I guess what I was pointing at, meaning when I said lakefront lots and. Lakefront lots are cheap, right? So the typical person that can afford
Yeah.
a lakefront lot is not gonna put one of them $1,500 sheds on their lot.
And they're not gonna put it and spoil their view.
Yeah, right.
That's right. They're not gonna do it, then have to move it and.
Those might be on inland lots.
Can we
But
do
then-
something where we require higher requirements for waterfront? Lots with sheds on it, or not waterfront?
Why do you,
Why? I mean,
why would you have to dictate that? When
It's only for the
more
aesthetic.
rules on?
If the boats are going by all day long and they're looking at the lot and it's a $1,500 piece of shit shed. It's gonna be looked at differently than going by and if it's a $5,000 shed, it looks a lot nicer. That's why I'm asking the question, is it, can we and should we?
I think you rolled the dice. I mean,
I don't wanna get.
I'm
that-
sitting here, but
I don't wanna get that.
you know what? I'm all about let the guys. Live, you
Do
know,
what they wanna do?
in reason, and now you're putting. On lakefront, now you're trying to dictate the people that would less likely put. The cheap stuff on.
Yeah.
And
So we hope.
beyond the point that they could be just doing it in steps, it takes kind of a lot of money to buy the lakefront lot. Some people may buy it, but aren't in a position to build at the cost of building today. So let's use it as what we can, put the shed there and so we can boat, we can have a dock, you can have a boat. You have all your life vests, all your gas cans and all the other stuff in the shed. All right, you can do it per day. All right? And to come out for a day, but they're not gonna do that. Forever, all right?
Right.
I think that's all right.
Curious what neighbors will say if we do start allowing this.
You're gonna.
Oh, it's already been
you're gonna
approved
have-
that we're allowing it, so I mean.
The only reason I'm saying that is we allowed and he legally did it. Put the barn up on clubhouse over there, and we never really heard from anybody until it was after it was done, then they yelled and screamed about it. So I'm getting at, are we walking down that same road, let's say we allowed them to do this stuff. Are we gonna start hearing from neighbors saying, no, I don't like this, I don't want it?
that's where the roll of the dice comes into play.
It is, so, but
Yeah.
I'm basing on experience of what we experienced before, I could see that happening.
Mhm.
And if we do allow it and we get a lot of people complaining.
Yeah.
What do we say? You know?
And some of that though, I think is gonna be very neighborhood dependent,
True.
you know, and that was my read on the fallout from Paul's garage was. There was a certain neighborhood that found that offensive and
Mhm.
other neighborhoods were like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I will take one in my yard.
Well, speaking that way, it'd be like these bees and chickens.
Mhm.
I mean, there's all sorts,
Oh, yeah.
I'm speaking for myself, but I mean, there's an awful lot of communities that I would think that would go, not that they would beat chickens in them areas, but to go, okay, we got a dog problem, but we
Right.
have a chicken problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
we got bees, we got people that are allergic to bees.
If you have flowers and you have all natural different landscaping right now, you're gonna expect certain insects to come.
And you're
Right.
gonna,
Yeah.
bees are wild, I mean, I understand people being scared, I'm allergic to bees and I don't wanna die thing, but. There's bees around right now anyways.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right, but it's different than having
Introducing
hives.
Yeah, introducing
Yeah,
hives.
They're still around, so it takes us one.
Yeah, 3 hives in your backyard,
Yeah,
and you're the neighbor.
yeah.
And that's, I could see that.
Yeah.
You know, an issue. But
So
I
sheds,
really
yeah, I
don't
could see
think
that being the same.
too many people are gonna do that. I really don't think there are gonna be too many people.
Yeah, there are gonna be some people that don't like it, there are gonna,
Sure, yeah.
there are gonna be some people that abuse it, it's just a given.
Yeah, if you have the next door,
You know.
just get in there
I do
anything you
think,
want.
I do just in allowing
Dock
flat
and-
sheds will allow them to use their property a little bit more and be, and not have an excuse of not taking care of it, because you can leave the stuff, take care of it right there.
Mhm.
You know, it alleviates the burden of maintaining your property by being able to have the equipment there to do so.
So I got a question about the looks of a property.
Mhm.
On a vacant lot, is there any type of stipulation that they gotta keep it mowed?
Not from the village.
Never has been, so, and I can't see us doing that. You know?
No, but I'm just saying something else that
Right.
you're looking at. Aesthetics, but
Mhm.
you can have a neighbor that has mice living in their lot because their grass is 3 foot tall.
Right.
And then you got a guy that's got a shed that's gonna mow his grass or at least mow a trail so you can park in it. and
But that actually brings up a really good question, because the requirement to keep your property mowed is once you put a structure on it. So if you put a shed on a vacant lot,
That's
are we gonna now
There you
require?
go, put that in it, more
Yeah.
people have to mow their grass.
Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate point.
That is.
Well, I think somebody putting a shed on a property are going to start maintaining it better, because now they have a little bit more use of it there. You know, well, you never know, but I mean, I think a person's gonna spend the money to put that.
True. The intent is that
They would have
there's
a silver in there.
you know.
But I'm going overboard here, but if you've seen the house on Coldwater and Drew,
Mhm.
the new guy who moved in there,
Oh.
that's like a freaking junkyard.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't clean it up pretty soon, I hope somebody complains.
Well,
There-
that-
oh,
that
there's
person-
been-
Horrible.
That person moved down
you
from
know,
close
You come to a lot of
to.
our meetings. too,
Those people
so-
have.
Yeah,
There's been a petition.
All you have to do right now is call the county and complain to the county, file a complaint, and they're supposed to come out and light him
So
for that.
I know
but
there
he
is
wasn't doing that.
Petition and.
there is an open complaint with the prosecutors from that property.
Oh,
The county has referred it to the prosecutor.
Okay.
So,
And we've had multiple people come and talk to us about it, like, it is outside the village, so
Right.
there is a little bit of this, but we'll
Right.
make the call for you.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we've had complaints since December, and it's been referred to the prosecutor. It's like that.
like, what, 10 cars on?
That used to be a gas station, fun fact.
Is that what it was? I knew there was a gas
Look
station
how
out that
clean
way.
that
I didn't know that.
No, clean bins.
Because
Look,
back in
any
the
of
day,
Rented there for years.
Coldwater
always
Road got
kept it
ended
up.
there.
Oh.
Did you Photoshop that?
Back in the day, what?
Back in the day, Coldwater ended at Drew.
Oh, wow.
So it used to, you have to go Drew to school to come up. This area here is the old railroad track. So you can see the railroad track came this way,
Mhm.
ran
Going
up
in the
this
basement.
way, and then shot in over here and ended up over here a block away from the IGA
Huh.
on Parsons.
Wayman used to be the biggest town west of Saginaw.
Oh,
We used to have 5 hotels.
Oh, that's
really?
in Waveman. Yeah, if you
Oh,
read
yeah.
the, if you read the
Lumber.
history of that, Waveman, the
Yeah.
gentleman named the lumberman who were doing
Oh,
business there,
just
last name was
incredible.
Waveman.
That hotel.
So, but yeah, I just blew my
The
mind. all the
biggest
stuff I
town
found
west
out
of
about Waveman.
Saginaw, is that what you said?
Yeah, it
For a
was the
very
biggest
short
town
period.
west of Saginaw back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, because of all the lumber was being hauled in the Waveman area
Wow.
from this area and then floated down the Chippewa
Makes a
River.
lot of sense, stuff over.
Actually, no, they're checking out by rail.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah, they would do by rail, not by river as much, so.
Mhm.
But yeah, that blew my mind. There used to be 5 hotels in
Yeah.
Waveman.
Edmore used to be quite
big
the
point.
bustling railroad city for her,
Yeah.
you know.
If you
town.
go to the library in Waveman, they've got that book, the history thing, because there's a history of Waveman and the history of Beale City. From back then, way back when.
Even north of Mount Pleasant. But those are called Dogtown, Isabella City, that existed before Mount Pleasant.
I didn't know.
1862 is when.
Yeah, I do like your idea of,
Wow.
having the same,
I learned a lot of that being on the
Yeah.
township board,
you know,
looking up.
whether
a lot
you're
of
making
history.
property or in somebody's home. That just makes sense,
Okay.
that keeps a,
Where do we
you
go
know,
from here?
So if you want,
continuity about our rules and guidelines,
you wanna know the quick history here. In the early 1880s, or late 1870s. The Toledo Ann Arbor Railroad had made it to or St. Louis. And they had bought out the St. Louis to Saginaw line that Amy Wright, the guy who
46.
taught at Alma College, put in.
Mhm.
His plan, the guy that owned the Ann Arbor was James Ashley, who Ashley I think is named after, was gonna come straight out of St. Louis and come over to Mount Pleasant, bypass. Shepherd didn't exist, it was Salt River at the time. In Mount Pleasant at the time only had a narrow gauge from Mount Pleasant to Coleman to get out. And the folks in Elma did not like their plan. So they formed the Lamp Railroad, the Lansing, Elma, Mount Pleasant and Northern Railroad to connect Mount Pleasant to Lansing because they wanted to cart all of those ag products that were coming from Isabella County south to Lansing. So they came up in Shepherd didn't exist yet. It was Salt River, which was the first plat in Isabella County, Salt River. And they built the railroad tracks a half-mile west of Salt River, where they are in town today. Isaac Shepherd planted the rest of that area. And then they ran up north to Mount Pleasant, but they were like, there's these old articles in the paper like, Ashley asked for $15,000 from the citizens of Mount Pleasant to build his railroad, and he would have it by October. Wright offered 20,000 and to have it by July. They met at the Opera House.
Wow.
Where did the railroad from Lake Isabella that came through here, where did it go south of here?
So that was the one that spurred out in Edmore. So this is a railroad map from 1911.
Yeah.
And that spur, you can see it right there.
Waveman over there.
Wait, it's right here. Lake Isabella's right here. And it came down, actually through Remus, I guess.
Huh.
And that connected into Edmore.
Okay.
Cause the original plan for the Ann Arbor Toledo Railroad was to go all the way to Big Rapids. Because the whole problem that they were having at the time was this big bottleneck in Chicago. So they're trying to get all the lumber out of Michigan to go out east. And they couldn't get it out of Chicago because there's too much traffic. So they're trying to find routes on Lake Michigan to ship it out.
Okay.
So that's why they built these railroads going to Ludington and that way.
Oh, the ports on Lake Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah,
To bypass Chicago.
Okay.
yeah, well,
Makes sense.
I still want to bypass Chicago.
Who doesn't? But you had such classics as Sherman City, Delwyn.
I'm doing past the Delwyn sign, yeah.
And if you go out that way, if you're going that way to get to Coleman and go out that way, you can still see the old railroad bridge right here. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I take that way a lot to get out to the highway out
There's
there,
a-
and then down towards.
There's an old party spot out in that area called the End of the World.
Oh, I've been there.
Oh, yeah. And for,
A lot of time.
people building their house over here on El Camino, which is, right in here. One of the things that you can find on the old railroad tracks through there is coal. Because when they had excess coal, the town elders in Wademan didn't want them to park the coal cars in the village overnight in case it caught on fire, so they would chuck extra coal out as they were getting close to Wademan, so that they wouldn't have a full load of coal in the village.
Of course, never went back and picked it up either. so.
Yeah, no, there's coal all over through there. Really, it's not like in, Shawshank Redemption, you know, here's a chunk of
Right.
coal in a place it doesn't belong.
It was a volcanic rock, but yeah.
Yeah.
so, yeah. So getting back to sheds, then where do we go from here?
So my take on this is you guys really are okay with just the regular good old fashioned shed permit that we make people do with a couple of caveats of.
Yep.
You know, you gotta sign this waiver that you're not gonna live in it. And the knowledge is you're gonna have to start mowing the grass.
To the current shed size requirement on a
Yeah.
lot with the house.
Did you change that, right? Was that 8x10 or something? Or
Well,
So if
has that
you're,
not been picked?
if you're a half acre or less, we capped you at 120. The other than that, your regular shed size can go up to 240.
So 10 by 12.
So half size if you're on a small parcel, full size if you're, you know, 2 lots or more essentially.
Which is basically essentially the same as a lot with a house already there.
Yeah.
So
You know,
a
and
minimum requirement of 120 on a house.
no, we
Allow-
240.
Pardon?
240.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let them build a smaller shed then,
We wanted to be intentional
We
about
wanted
that,
to
so
keep it so people don't live in it.
it was,
Sure, yeah,
it was
I agree.
scalable. So if you have a small piece of property, we didn't want, you know, the
a
shed,
lot or something.
yeah, like that.
Okay.
You know, the question, when it comes into mowing, you know, right here is Claudia Ross property. Right here is where that shed was at,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
was right, probably 50 feet, or not even that,
Give-
probably
give or
30
take.
feet off the water.
you know, we're not gonna make her mow that entire 5 acres, like, that's not reasonable, we wouldn't make anybody else do that.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
so,
But if you have an inland,
but if you're,
if you have an inland lot.
Right
I
here.
would expect that all mowed.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
For just a shed on there?
yeah. That's what you're signing up for.
I know,
Well,
but
yeah, once there's a structure on it, I mean, it's now a used
That's what they
property.
gotta
It
understand.
should be
even
maintained.
if they put a shed on a structure that has all trees and stuff like that, how much?
Well, there's no lawn, so you're
Well,
not.
Well, like right
There might
here,
be
for
some
example.
field area there, but
Well, you're not gonna tear down the trees to do that, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying, you know, the grassy areas, you're gonna need to maintain that, you're gonna need to mow it. You're not just gonna have waist deep, you know, heather going out to your shed. You're going through the Everglades.
I mean, once they maintain that first few times, it's gonna be the first couple times, it's gonna suck.
right.
Were they
So how do
waving
we
at
tell
you or?
somebody like the
Yeah, she was
lake,
waving at me, I think.
how much acreage or how much? How much do they have to be in order for them? to
This is your
mow it
version of
versus not?
Google Earth?
So we uploaded all of these. So we went out and did the imagery ourselves.
Wow.
Um,
Oh, so that's not the Google?
this is
stuff?
Google Street View,
Okay.
but instead of a Google car,
You did it.
you could do the video and upload it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is what we did. And I tell you, it's fantastic.
Wish you would let me know. I could have gone and laid on my driveway. You know, like I'm dead. I've seen people do that on their Google stuff when they don't coming by. They do certain things, so.
So one of the reasons why we did it is we wanted to get a before and after on Clubhouse for just auditing purposes on that project and
Mhm.
came in handy right away because gentleman over here was not happy with his driveway. I'm like, okay, let's go back and look at what you had before and I don't have it here. I have the other video from
Okay.
August, but it's like, yeah, okay, we can address that, but. Well, my old car.
Well, I guess, I mean, require them to mow it and take care of it and stuff like that could be enough of a deterrent too. That maybe say, "Hey, I don't wanna put a shed if I have to mow it."
But doing that every year is gonna be fantastic for just documenting development and
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What do you? No, I'm not trying to dictate more shit, but
Right,
you end up and you mow. What if there's lots that have a ditch.
No,
They
Oh,
drive,
do
through-
mow
they
the
drive
ditch,
through,
you mean?
they drive through the ditch to,
that's fine.
okay.
We got the house,
I was just asking.
If we do that,
Vermerlin's at El Camino in Queensway, they don't mow their ditch on the
Right.
Queensway side.
No, I didn't mean mow. I
Oh.
meant
You mean,
accessing.
Access-
So they gotta get a driveway permit.
Yeah, you
you
gotta,
gotta get a driveway and get a culvert.
yeah, you have to have a culvert
or not, depending on whether it needs a culvert,
or
but.
something.
If it's a deep ditch and it's
Yeah.
probably
So if we do
for water
require,
flow, you probably would.
We don't charge you for the permits.
if we require them to mow it and stuff like that, are we gonna make it fall into the 8 inch like we do now for everybody else?
That's the rule.
Okay,
The 8 inch.
that's multiple mowings a year then. So. If
In
not,
other
come
words-
in the spring, cut it down once, cause if
Right.
it grows
Yeah.
more than 8 inches, now you're gonna get a violation for.
Well, and I really like the idea of that because. You know, if anybody wants to have a shed that's it's gonna clean up the neighborhood community, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make a point, so.
Yeah,
you know,
that keeps the
It keeps.
honest,
Yeah.
you know, so if he's gonna,
Or
they're gonna
somebody
put a
saying,
little bit of extra time in mowing
Yeah,
grass, they're gonna. Abide by the rules a little bit more,
Yeah.
you might still have a plain Jane shed on there, but.
There's other lakes
I mean,
that they
they're
can
gonna
go,
try
if they
to-
wanna do that junk, there's other lakes that they can go do. All right, they don't have to do it here.
We hope.
I think all.
Well, that's the whole, but that's the plan, Dan.
people know, so.
Again, you can't stop everybody without,
Too.
you know,
Yeah, my biggest thing anytime we're talking about implementing a new zoning is, you know, when we put it in place, it's a zoning law. You know, so, you know, I always ask, well, you know, who's going to
But
enforce?
you've changed it too, because, I mean, it's, I don't know how easy it is to change than to make it, because it was before my time, but. You were able to put, at one point. There's laws that have been changed,
Ordinances really.
ordinances,
They're easy to change.
so I would guess that. If for some reason it doesn't work out, where you're getting at is once it becomes.
But you can take it out later on.
You should be able to take it out just as easy. as
Yeah,
You
you
can,
can.
so, yeah.
You know, and we had a conversation briefly.
I think
about
it's gonna
this
be a good
at the
thing.
Council meeting about sheds and garages and that kind of stuff and, you know, reminding some of our newer members to the board that, you know, you have to look at this holistically over the life of the community, where 15 years ago, you couldn't build a detached garage, period.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
bigger
so
than your
to
house.
get to the point where we're at today,
Mhm.
you couldn't just make that big step. You had to do incremental things
Yep.
along the way. Otherwise, you know, it was too much of a culture shock, essentially, is the way I think
Mhm.
to view it.
Oh, most definitely, and I'm not trying
Yeah.
to say that, I'm just, you know, you go from. 5 years ago to, it doesn't matter what you pick, whether you're talking. Something that we are right now, or
Mhm.
in all aspects of life. 5 years ago or 10 years ago to now.
Yep.
Is dramatically changed on how things are, how people do things.
Yeah, I think overall, we are continuing to move in a more permissive, easier to approve type environment.
Yep.
You know, and some of that, quite frankly, is market driven changes that we've needed to make to continue to try and make development affordable. You know, find that balance point between affordability and community standards,
Mhm.
you know. You know, if you look at things like in 2008, we made changes to our zoning ordinance to say, you know, it's really impossible to put a single wide trailer in the village. And then
Right.
2 or 3 years ago, we went back and said, look, all these places that have single wide, there's no economic incentive to do anything here. You at least should let these people swap them out for new single wides. So,
Mhm.
you know,
but I think.
That's part of our job, is keep an eye on what.
But I
things are
think
doing,
that's-
how things
The
change.
beauty of Lake Isabella is the attraction where, if I compare that to a lot of HOAs for condominium
Mhm.
rules. Some of them in Mount Pleasant are very restrictive.
yeah,
And people don't like that,
no,
all right? I mean, if you put a flower pot on your back porch, it could be a violation.
Right.
And some, I mean, some silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you
You-
get,
you-
then you have that selected few that wanna be in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, but see, the beauty here is that we don't have that, and that's what people can come to and they enjoy.
Yeah.
There's a controlled environment, but it's relaxful. It's not
Well, I mean-
confrontational.
You know,
Our HAOA,
Yeah, yeah.
they have no teeth whatsoever.
Jeff-
They can tell you not to do something, but they won't go to court, they won't fine you, they can't fine you, you know, that kind of stuff too. So in certain places, HOA, okay,
Jeff's been here since the mid-90s.
Yep.
I've been here since '04. I don't think anyone else is
Mhm.
senior than
No.
that. And I can tell you. There has been a night and day change from. The early days when I was here till today, based on. What we thought we were as a community, what we thought we were gonna be as a community. When I started, there was a lot of talk of like modeling Canadian ways and this kind of stuff like that, and. You know, as we got. Data around what the demographics in our community were, specifically, like, these are our. You know, these are our target market groups, these are the people who are moving in your community. We then really started to make much more, I would use the word progressive, but. Changes that aligned with who was coming to our community, who was gonna come to our community, who was gonna stay to our community. And, you know, there has been some friction at points between.
Mhm.
That group that was here that had this view of the community, and the people who have moved in and said, no, this is how we think this should be, and. You know, that pendulum has certainly swung more and more away from where it was in 2004 when I started.
in '96, when I got here, I was what, 132 years old, I was a minority. This was a retirement community, everybody was retired 65 and older, I mean,
Mhm.
70-80% of the people were like that. This place was a ghost town in the winter when I first moved here. Now demographics and the average age is changed and dropped big time. So now we've gotten into that point where we have to be open-minded enough to say we have to work with the people that live here now, and it's a bigger majority. And what they want to do within reason, so.
Okay.
So you're gonna draw some stuff up then for,
I'll just make up a special permit for it and send it to you guys via email, see what you think. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
if we're just going with the existing stuff, it's pretty straightforward at that point in time.
so is there
So it's
something-
already approved, it's just what we're approving.
Basically, yeah, if you guys want the design standards to be what's currently the ordinance for everything else, that's entirely your prerogative.
No, I guess I meant like
Yes,
the shed thing is already approved.
Yeah, it's already approved,
It
yeah.
is.
that's what I was saying earlier, it's already a done deal. We're just,
It is.
you know, putting the icing
Yeah, we
on.
had two people that didn't want to go down that road, I was one of them, so, but. And, you know, I don't get everything I want, so I have to adjust.
Used to sit right here.
I have to adjust and work with what's best for the village, if I don't want it.
The council's biggest concern was, you know, if we're gonna do it on smaller lots, we do wanna have a size limitation there.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that, so you don't have, you know, a 240-foot shed on a smaller lot, like you want some proportionality.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Right, but, now, so he puts a residence there, are they gonna be able to upgrade their shed to that 240
Yeah, they
square foot?
Absolutely.
You know,
And you can always have two sheds too, once you have a house, like we allow that everywhere now, so. And those are other changes, like, you used to have one, you know, a maximum of one, or you could have a shed in a garage or two sheds, you couldn't have a garage and two, like. We've continually tried to expand storage options for the last decade.
It's funny, because when Jim was here for this one, 15 years ago, probably more. We had people that wanted to build these giant garages that were bigger than the house they lived in. And perfect example is up on Queensway, when you come up the hill there, they're not in the village. In that little house with giant garage attached to it. We were all, no freaking way, we don't want that kind of stuff around here. Just as you get up Queensway up the
Camino,
hill,
yeah.
no, before El Camino, or no, yeah, after El Camino on the west side, so,
Yeah.
yep. So we were all like, oh, let's break the ordinances, we're gonna ban all that, we don't allow all that stuff. Well, before I ended my stint on the council, I had done an 180 degree turn, because I was sick of seeing all the toys out on people's lawns and the side of their houses in the back of it. And so I got to the point where it's like, okay, maybe this is better to allow bigger garages, bigger storage garage across the, street from your house kind of stuff. Just because my vision of what I wanted had changed that much over the years, so that I wanted people putting all the toys away, so it looked better. So that's just over time how things can change from one way to another. And I think that's a huge responsibility of the planning commission, is to stay on top of what your people that live in your area want and constantly adjust things that we need to do. You can take an ordinance and redo an ordinance pretty much anytime you want. I don't want to do it every day, obviously,
Sure.
but we went through some of the stuff like fences and bigger garages, that kind of stuff too. It's a lot of work. But I think it's our responsibility to keep those things up to what people's expectations are today. Who knows what they are 10 years from now,
Right.
but we have to be able to make those changes.
From June 14th of 2005. Like Commissioner Khan, comment on what if the allowed sizes are too big for garages?
Was that 20 years ago? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you put.
Because we were, the file I had about that ordinance at the time was monster garages,
Yeah,
because that's what
monster
they
garages,
kept
that's what
being
we
referred to
referred to
as,
them, yep.
monster garages.
The uproar about people not wanting that kind of stuff around here.
Yeah, but if you have, depends on how many toys you really have.
If you have, I'll tell you, if you have, so what is it? It's 1,200 and,
You know, 1,300.
oh, it's 1,300 square foot. That's just a hair over 30 by 40.
Right, 2 by 4.
Yep.
You park a pontoon in that, you pretty much got, and you have you build a bench on the side, you've pretty much eaten up that barn.
Well, I understand. So if you
That
have,
depends on how long the trailer is too. I mean,
So if you
it's
have-
pontoon,
That's
it's
right,
on
you-
the
I mean,
head,
you
so-
pretty much.
Yeah.
yeah,
28
I got
foot boat.
I got a 20 foot.
Yeah.
And
all right.
it
I
would
can't-
barely fit in
Yeah,
a
I
40.
don't have a place big enough for all of them.
No.
So I have to store my wave runners and boat off site. I don't have a big enough area. And I don't have a lot across the street that I can build a garage, garage or anything on. So I'm resigned to the fact that I have to move my stuff off site.
We take the poles 16 and 17 now, we can put it out.
You build yourself a hangar over here in the airport area and fill it
Yeah.
up with whatever you got, so.
I think I get enough golf balls in my yard now. Guys overshooting the 16th hole.
I found golf ball almost at the seawall.
Mhm.
I mean, our house, I don't know how they hit from hole 17, which is basically totally 180 degrees.
Now you know why the neighbor over there built a couple trees, because the guys that sliced, the neighbor across the street lost a couple patio doors.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
All right, because they sliced off and bam, right into the patio door.
And,
There was one change that brings up, to my neighbor, that the council included in the ordinance that it didn't come through here. Euro style fencing. So we had a permit come in. And it doesn't meet the definition of a cyclone fence or a chain link fence, and it's a wire fence. But it's individual panels that are screwed into each post.
6-foot panels.
Yep, so
wire.
Virgilio's old house.
Right.
Yeah.
They're designed.
Ken Virgilio lives right down at the end of 16,
That's,
and
yeah,
he had
that's where it's
lights
at.
outside of a sliding glass door. He had to call the manufacturer and order an extra half a dozen of them, because every year somebody's ball was coming, hitting those lights, busting it. And so he couldn't put another one up because they didn't make them, and he finally found a manufacturer, he bought literally about a half dozen more of them. Now he's gonna have to replace those lights. Pretty awesome. Yeah.
So unlike a chain link fence, which is a coil, these are individual 6-foot segments
But
that
they
are
look good.
screwed into those posts. So we made the ordinance clear that you can do that.
And that's probably Euro fence?
Euro style fencing.
Okay.
And he cut the tops of those posts off and he found a light. It's a solar powered little light, so every pole at the top has a little glowing light.
That's
Oh,
cool.
wow.
There's no restriction on height though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he has a couple real small dogs and it's right next to the golf course.
Yep.
So that there's no way, if you even put the dogs out on a leash and put them around, they're gonna bark
Sure.
and all that. So now they're free to run and they're fine.
Is
So
there,
this is
is there
allowed?
is there anything on keeping up fence?
Was it 50%?
The fences should be maintained.
As maintaining the fence?
Yeah, I think it's in there.
Is Lapoa exempt from that, or?
Napoleon had no teeth. They could write in a law saying you can't do anything.
No, I said, is Lapoa exempt for that? They have miles of fence.
Oh, the split rail fencing,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
fencing's fencing, buddy.
Oh, I know it is, oh.
No, I'm asking about.
I haven't replaced the
maintaining-
one
I'm
between
asking
my,
about the main.
if I break down from between my neighbor's house next to me, I don't replace them. I just dig the damn stump up. Now,
I
there's the
do,
one that
I
comes
do
up.
too. I'm just curious.
Maintain so that the finished side is out, is what we say.
Yeah. Mhm.
So.
We did have that one, we did have a,
Right.
Customer
I think
over that
you're-
way or-
I think maintenance as far as some of them broken and fallen down and.
Yeah,
and
they-
disrepair.
yeah, they look really
usually if
good.
it's more than 50% damage.
The guy
Or
spent
blight or whatever, you're required to put
Yeah.
in place the whole thing.
And he's in
Well,
particular, you
say
don't know,
you
he's
just repair.
very particular.
But you gotta keep up on it, cause we got a
So I went.
house to put up some big panel
It
wood
looks.
pieces.
Yeah.
But he wanted the
It really
three
does.
on the inside, so we switched them.
The
So
prohibition
Ugly from
on
the outside.
chain link
Yeah,
goes back to
we had to
the
make them turn them all back around again, or put another one
village is
on the outside. So
universally more restrictive in our zoning about development on every other thing. Except chain link fences is what their one like hang up at the building use restrictions for the association were no chain link fences, like. Everything other than that, we were more restrictive of, and
I think they were pretty much split rail only, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they had anything.
the rail style or picket.
Right, but again, they have no teeth, they have no.
So we did our fence regulation out of 2012 or something like 2010 to help them. Cause we would approve a permit, they would deny, and they were like, well, I'm selling my house anyway, so I don't care. Cause yeah, they didn't allow privacy fences, that kind of stuff. Well, yeah,
Any public.
there's more important animals to fight.
You're done with that, all right. Any, you don't have any public comments, obviously. Member comments?
I think we should. I have done.
I think we took care of that for the last year.
Any announcements? I guess that's it.
Nope.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for running the show for Zod.
8:40.